Boom.
Damn, this is some good ass lighting.
It is really good lighting. Okay, I'm gonna start recording on this. This is recording. Bada bing, bada boom.
Thank you for tuning into our podcast, Vajza Gra. Whether you're a modern woman or a traditional one,
Vajza Gra is established to educate, entertain, and create a safe and inclusive platform to unify and empower Albanian women.
we are your hosts,
My name is Dita.
and my name is Dajana, and we hope you keep an open mind and enjoy the rest of this episode.
Hi guys.
Hey guys.
How do I say welcome everyone in Albanian?
Mirë vini. TG.
Mirë se vini. Guys, I gotta brush up on my Albanian. I'm not fluent.
We'll get you there.
Yeah.
By the time we take our Albania trip,
Yeah.
you'll be fluent.
Diana promised me I'm going to be fluent in Albanian, so I'm going to hold her to it. Anyways, let's get into it.
Let's get into it. First of all, we want to start off by thanking you guys for all of the amazing feedback we've been getting on the first 3 videos that we launched.
Yeah.
3 podcast episodes, I should say, because not everybody watches on YouTube. But we've been getting so much feedback from your aunties, your mamas, you yourself, and we're so happy to know that all the hard work we put into this is finally being recognized, and it's being taken so well from all of you. We've gotten some good feedback.
Yeah, I got feedback from multiple people saying that I shouldn't curse so much. So you heard
Agreed.
it here. You heard it here.
We're pledging.
No more cursing on the podcast.
Agreed.
With that being said, let's fucking continue. Just kidding. Sorry, I don't like being told what to do. Just kidding. Okay, no, I swear to God.
We have a little bit of an authority issue around here.
No, I swear. No more cursing on the podcast. But yeah, continue.
I agree. No, we've been getting some great feedback. We love hearing what you guys have to say. We love hearing what you guys would like to see or hear from us. So keep the comments coming.
All the likes, all the shares, the subscriptions, especially the downloads on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. It really helps, and it really lets us know, because we see all the analytics, and it just really helps us know like what people are interested in and what they're tuning in for and what certain episodes they're downloading. So that feedback is very important to us, and we really appreciate it. So keep it up, please.
Keep it up.
Keep it up. Yeah. Let's talk about what this episode is going to be about.
Today's episode is going to be all about dating. And I have a feeling that 99.9% of Albanian girls will be able to relate to all of the things that we're going to talk about today.
Just letting you guys know, we tried to record this specific episode 3 times. It's a very hard topic to digest or dissect. I'm sorry, because I feel like there's our experience with dating, and then there's the Albanian norm, and then there's the contemporary Albanian ways that are kind of being influenced, and then there's marriage, because dating and marriage in Albanian culture are so intertwined. So we were like, oh, fuck, we're talking to... Oh, I just did it. Oh, shoot. Okay, I swear that's the last time. So when we'd be talking, we'd be like, oh, we're mentioning so much about marriage. Like, that's a whole different episode. So we are going to talk a little bit about marriage, but it is going to be mainly about dating.
Yeah, it's very hard to mention dating in Albanian culture without it coming with marriage. So we're going to try hard, like Dita said, to separate the two in 2 different episodes.
I want to read directly from this article that I found. The article was published by the World Trade Press in 2010. I just want to emphasize the fact that it was published in 2010 because that's fairly recent.
Are we moving at a very slow rate?
I think so. I think we are.
Okay. Go ahead and read it, and then we'll dissect after.
The title of the article is Albanian Women in Culture, Business, and Travel, a profile of Albanian women in the fabric of society. And I want to read a specific paragraph, and it's under the category of dating, marriage, and family. Albanian women usually do not date. Women meet men only in social gatherings and family get-togethers. Traditional Albanians prefer marriages at an early age in order to protect the girls from losing their virginity before marriage. Traditionally, Albanian marriages are arranged by parents with the help of a matchmaker.
We do understand there is like the outliers within that data, but for the most part, I feel like we have all experienced and seen that happen in like firsthand.
Yeah, I want to emphasize that, like, just because it didn't like directly happen to you, you might have experienced it with either your external family members or friends. So every time I like meet a new guy and they ask me like, oh, where are you from? I always get like, it ranges. Like at this point, I'm like, I can just finesse any nationality that I want. I get Spanish, I get totally French.
See that.
You see my Latina side?
I do, but I also see your French side.
Oui, oui. Okay. Every time I tell a guy that I'm Albanian, the first reaction he has is, oh shit, like I can't talk to you, like you're an Albanian girl, like your dad's gonna come at me, like, and they're like, do you have an older brother? And I'm like, oh my God.
That's my second reaction. The first one is, oh, she's a foreign baddie.
Okay, good for you. My first reaction is, oh, her dad is gonna kill me. But I wanted to mention this because stereotypes are stereotypes for a reason, okay? There's always the truth behind stereotypes, and that's why stereotypes can be dangerous because they put people in a box, but they're there for a reason because there's a little bit of truth to it, right? The point that I want to make is the stereotype behind being too afraid to ask an Albanian girl out in fear that you're going to get hunted down by her dad and brothers and uncles and cousins. I don't know, the whole mafia.
The list goes on.
This goes on. The Albanian mafia basically stems from the reputation of Albanian girls not being allowed to date, only being allowed to date Albanian men, or having no liberty to date without the supervision or approval of Albanian men.
Agree.
So that is this whole stereotype. And like you said, it stems from very, very old traditional values, but you can say, yes, we have progressed, but I've seen it like
very slowly.
It's very prevalent in contemporary times.
Oh, for sure.
Or else we wouldn't be talking about it.
Before I moved to the United States, I would see this happen all the time. It happened to some of my best friends in Albania who were, like the article said, super young at the time. But my best friend in Albania before I moved here, she got married when she was 17 and she got married off. Or also we have this thing where it used to be like you get promised to someone.
Yeah, that's also
when
an article.
When you're like
when
a baby.
Yes. Oh my God. Wait, can I just read it? Wait.
I guess we've moved up from then. Like they wait until you're 18 now. But yeah, that I did see that happen firsthand to one of my best friends. And right now she has 3 kids and I'm over here sitting in my room. Like she literally is married, has a husband, has 3 kids, has a job. And what do I have? Like, and you're like, what Prada bag do I want? So it's crazy to see the comparison and how different we can be while being the same, while trying to, keep up the same values and cultures. Like we can talk about our dating experience, but my parents did not want us to date until we were like literally like yesterday.
Yeah. I think we should both go into our individual dating experiences because
what we've seen and how we relate to what we mentioned in the article.
Personally, the whole stereotype of, women being cock blocked because of this stereotype was proven to me since a very, very young age because I only saw men casually dating in my family, whereas the women would just jump right into marriage, right? So the idea of a woman dating was very foreign to me. So I wasn't allowed to date growing up. And what ended up happening was I suppressed my feelings for having the urge to date so much that I like convinced myself that I didn't want to date from a very, very young age. When in reality, it's like all I wanted. Like my friends would be talking about their experiences with boys and I would feel like sort of a freak because I had like no experience with boys because I was terrified to even interact with boys.
Was it because you were scared the family was going to find out, or you just had that feeling where it's like you've never talked to a guy and like because you weren't allowed to also, but it's like the fear to talk to them personally or the fear to be caught talking to them?
It was the fear to be caught talking to them.
Okay.
Because my mom had spies all around the block. Like, in middle school, she had spies. So I remember like one time I like hung out with a boy after school who's just my friend, like nothing like that. And she was like, "So who are you with?" But so and so saw you walking around with blah. And I was like, "Oh my God, I'm being watched." That completely discouraged me from even trying to mess around with boys or talk to boys and stuff like that.
But now that we think back on it, like, okay, so what would have happened? Would they have married you off? Like, I think about it now and I'm like,
yeah, but you know, when you're a kid,
gonna get disowned, like, what was gonna happen there?
Yeah, but when you're a kid, your parents are terrifying.
Oh, for sure.
You know what I mean? I'm talking like middle school. Yeah. Okay, so during my freshman and sophomore year of high school, I was like 15 years old. And I started secretly dating this kid. He was my first, you could say, boyfriend. And I'm using air quotes when I say the word boyfriend because
you're 15.
I was 15. And like looking back on it now, I'm like, that wasn't a real relationship. But in the moment, it felt very, very real. Like the emotions felt very real. He was like emotionally abusive, very manipulative. Like I think he was 2 years older than me. And he was really, really playing with my feelings. And mind you, like, I was a vulnerable 15-year-old girl. And this is the first guy. You know, I went from repressing those urges to talking to a guy. And I didn't know where to start. I didn't know, like, how to handle my feelings. When the relationship ended, I was so heartbroken. Like, that was my first real heartbreak. And I remember it was... I think he broke up with me on my birthday or the day before my birthday. No. I remember being so heartbroken, but I could not tell anyone about it. And I mean, obviously I confided in my friends, but confiding in a 15-year-old is like the blind leading the blind. Like we're all dumb. Like, how are you supposed to help me, you know? So I was suffering in silence. And like, I know it may sound trivial talking about it now, but in the moment, it was the most catastrophic thing that happened to me. Like that heartbreak and that first relationship really, really traumatized me. And I don't want to throw around the word trauma because it's a very strong word, but it really, really did, because I noticed that because I didn't heal from that relationship and because I didn't know how to navigate my feelings, I completely shut down. Like I didn't start talking to another guy or involving myself with guys until I was 19, 20 years old. That's how bad the heartbreak was for me.
I don't know why, but I feel like you really live your emotions and like...
Are you talking about me personally?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know how much like, work I had to go through to become this person who like, yeah.
I just feel like... especially in relationships, just comparing our experiences, you really like... let yourself feel your emotions.
Yeah, I'm like now as an adult, as somebody who put in work to become that person, I am very vulnerable and I'm very, very like gushy. Like I'm such a romantic, and it took me allowing myself to be that person.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that part.
And that was actually due to my last relationship, because I was so in love with the person in my last relationship. I really, really forced myself to become a vulnerable, open person who those bad habits that I developed in my adolescence or during the heartbreak because the heartbreak caused trauma, trust with men, sexual repression, like all of these things. And when I found somebody that I fell in love with, I actively chose to overcome those things.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So that's why now you can describe me as somebody who's very open and vulnerable and such a romantic and this like more evolved person. But back then it was not the case. I suffered in silence for a very, very long time. Like 15 to 20 years old, that's like 5 years of repressing.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, not only that, but I told you this, and I don't want to touch on this too much because this has more to do with sex than it has to do with dating. But the repression from my emotions led to repressing myself physically. And I believe that I told you this, like I
Yeah.
couldn't have like a sexual experience with a guy unless I was drunk.
Yeah.
So that was literally the evidence that I was not healed emotionally. Like my body literally could not be vulnerable with a guy.
Right.
And I could not be like sexy or you know, just feeling myself with a guy unless I had alcohol in my system. So that's just like proving that how much this relationship traumatized me. And it's because I had to navigate it by myself. I was a 15-year-old girl, like, who was so heartbroken, and I had nobody to talk about it with. And
especially it being your first experience too, like being ending in that manner. I could totally see that.
So how could that experience have been different? You know, my first heartbreak. It could have been different if I was able to confide in adults or my parents, preferably, or even a freaking therapist. Because I had to carry, like I said, like those trust issues and that insecurity, because he made me really, really insecure, and it followed me throughout my adult life. So then, you know, I had to work through those emotions. Like as I grew up, I realized like, okay, it's time to stop blaming a single person for the way that I am. Like I have to, as a mature adult, like I really have to put in the work to become an emotionally intelligent person, because I wasn't getting that from my parents. I'm going to talk about my last relationship again because it's relevant to my story. My last breakup was extremely heartbreaking. It was like my first heartbreak 2.0, but like on heroin. Like
she was in love.
I was in love. I was so in love. My love goggles were on so tight, it was stopping the circulation in my brain.
That's the first time I've heard that analogy, and I love it.
Well, here you go, babe. Like I went from thinking I was going to marry someone and planning my life with them in it to being broken up with and then completely like abandoned. Like I just felt so disposable. I don't think I've ever felt so disposable in my life. Like, and it was really, really hard. Because my first heartbreak, I couldn't talk to anybody about it. One other pattern that I did develop was when I go through something traumatic, I completely withdraw. And I suffer in silence because I'm not used to reaching out to people for help, right? So after this last heartbreak, I went completely MIA. Like I didn't know where to start helping myself. And I reached out to my aunt who lives in Texas, and I was like, Lumia. I was like,
shout out to Lumia.
Shout out Lumia. I was like, take me to the cow. I was like, I need to be in nature. I was like, I need to be in nature. I need to get the hell out of New York. I just need help. Like I need help. Like I can't go through these emotions by myself. And you can be the strongest person in the world, but when it comes to heartbreak, you have to lean on someone. You have to lean on your friends, your whatever support system you have. So I leaned onto Lumia. Thank you. She really, really helped me get through it. She's a very stoic person. Like this woman has been through so much in her life. Like she looked at my breakup and she was like, "Are you kidding me?"
This is what you're crying about. Get up.
Yeah, she was like, but I needed that. I needed that like stoic, like toughness, that tough love, because she was like, you know what? If somebody doesn't want you, if somebody doesn't value you, like they don't deserve you. Like she was embedding all of these things into my head to make sure that I didn't fall into that whole like pity party, like, oh, like nobody wants me. And she built me up. Like she built me up so much. If it wasn't for her and that support system, I don't know how I could have fully healed from my last breakup the way that I did, because I don't pity myself anymore, and I don't feel like traumatized. There was not one moment where I was like, I'm never going to find somebody again. I never lost hope like the same way that I did when I was 15 years old.
Which is crazy, because at 15, you're like, I literally have my whole life ahead.
Yeah, but nope, she did not let me slip up and get caught up in all of my emotions.
But with that being said, with the way you just described her being stoic and pushing you to like basically get up, like basically she was like, get up, like their life goes on, this is not the end of the world, it's a stupid relationship, whatever. Do you think that if that would have happened, so it's pretty typical for Albanian families not to show emotion and like not to drag things out,
like be stoic. Yeah,
exactly. Wouldn't that have, do you think that would have had the same outcome as what you did? Because at the end of the day, you're still not getting the support that you're looking for. Like they're still not like, oh, like let's take care of you. Let's
no. She was stoic when she needed to be stoic, but she let me show my emotions. Like there would be times where I would be crying so hard that I would be on like the bathroom floor crying, like almost about to throw up. And she would be like, get your ass up, get in the car. And we would go in the car and she would just let me cry. She'd be like, let it out. Let it all out. So maybe I miscommunicated that, but
no, I think I understand the way she dealt
it was
with
a balance.
But
it was a balance.
Yeah. Because I just think, like, I don't know. I'm just trying to put myself in your shoes for that and thinking about like how my parents would probably react to that. And I don't think there would be much emotion to it. There would be like, you're 15 years old, get over it. If you did tell your parents at the time and you were comfortable telling them that you were seeing somebody at 15 and everything, would there have been the support that you were looking for specifically?
I get exactly what you're saying. And the answer to that is probably not.
Exactly.
Because my parents, they didn't marry out of love. They married out of an exchange. My mother married for freedom and my father married because he was ready to get married. My father's 10 years older than my mom. So I understand that point that you're making, like, well, would have your Albanian parents who aren't emotionally intelligent, would they have been a good support system? The answer to that is probably no. But at the same time, it would have been nice to just talk about it with an adult. I think that they would try as much as they knew how to help me. The dichotomy between my first heartbreak and my recent heartbreak are completely different because my second most recent heartbreak, I see it as a lesson. Everything that I went through, I'm like, you know what? Thank God that happened. It's a lesson. And not only did it raise my standards and who I want as a partner, it made me realize what kind of partner I am, what I need to work on. Because listen, when everybody goes through a breakup, they're always like, this person's not going to find better than me. Like, da, 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 da. That's me. Trust me. That was me for a hot minute. I was like, who is he going to find that's better than me? Come on. But then you put your ego aside and you have to really analyze your actions and how you showed up in the relationship. You know, once I took my ego out of the picture, I was like, these are the lessons that I learned. So those lessons and those standards and me being introspective and analyzing who I am as a partner, what I'm like in a relationship, I can now carry that knowledge into the next relationship that I have. And that is the point that I'm trying to emphasize in the importance of dating, because you see these girls get married to the first guy that they're deemed allowed to date. And what happens? They suffer. And I'm not speaking for everybody. I'm speaking from my experience.
Right.
What happens is they don't know how to navigate the relationship because they don't know what they were like in previous relationships. They don't know how a man is supposed to be acting with them, especially if, and this is very common, if you grew up in a household where your parents aren't all lovey-dovey and have that, good communication. If you didn't have role models, how are you supposed to know who you are in a relationship? That concept is crazy to me, of like not letting Albanian girls date. That's kind of my experience in dating. Repressing my feelings, having to date in secret, going through heartbreak alone, being repressed sexually and emotionally, finding somebody, allowing myself to be vulnerable, and then the difference in the experience in the heartbreak and how I dealt with it when I had a support system.
I really like that we brought this topic up and we're talking about our personal experiences, because I think our experiences are extremely different in dating. For me and my family, it was more so them using examples of other people's children to tell us not to do that. So for example, somebody in the neighborhood will be talking about Dita's daughter, how she was I'm going to call us because that's what they would say, but like how she's a hoe because they saw her like getting in a car with a guy. That it would be what was used to tell us not to date. It would be like, oh, you don't want to be like Dita's daughter.
The whole pressure of like reputation.
100%. So the whole time it would be like, oh, they don't want me to be like her. So obviously that means like I can't go and get in somebody's car. So yeah, for us, it wasn't like we would sit down and have like a talk and it would be like, yeah, when you're at this age, you can start dating, you can whatever. This is what experiences with dating are like. It was more so like, this is what you shouldn't do because other people are doing it and they're getting talked bad about it. So that was pretty much how that experience was. And when I was in high school, like all throughout growing up, like you, I was very scared to get caught. So I was never like, until my senior year of high school, I never even attempted to like flirt with a guy. The whole experience of like not being allowed to date, I think it definitely made me not want to date. So when I did go to college and my parents were kind of hinting at like, if we were to start talking to somebody, it would be okay, you know, like start to getting to know people. I just like, I didn't want to, like, I didn't want anything serious. I think that idea of them like always pushing education kind of just got me really focused on school and like not focused on school because I was talking to people throughout college. So I don't want to misconcept that, but like it didn't want me to get serious with somebody. Like I never actually like officially dated anybody. That has never been me. And like, even in college, like I said, when there were hints that like it was okay to start exploring or whatever, I just like I remember I always deferred from catching feelings. Like I would get to know somebody, talk to them for a little bit. And as soon as I would see that there was a potential to start catching feelings, I would start playing games. I would either go ghost, talk to their friend.
Savage.
Like I would almost do something to sabotage the relationship before it even became a relationship so that I could avoid the whole point of like getting in a relationship and then dealing with everything that comes with it. So I don't know. I guess at the end of the day, my parents achieved their goal of me not wanting to date. But I don't know. I definitely agree with you when you said that it made you like very much emotionally unavailable. I feel like I literally at some point was acting like the biggest player.
But that like takes the fun out of like dating. Like that's the whole point of dating.
I
is
agree.
To have like wholesome connections with people.
I
and
100%
like that, instead
agree.
of just being like a player and playing games and stuff like that. So
yeah.
Don't you feel like you've kind of missed out on having like a wholesome, healthy relationship?
I 100% do. And I think when COVID happened, I basically like stopped talking to the world, especially guys. So for a whole year, I like didn't even like flirt with anyone or anything. And during that time period is when I actually realized what you just said, that it's like all of the connections that I've had have been so meaningless in one way or another because I was not looking at them as like trying to build. It did 100% make me realize that like I would like to have somebody that knows things about me that nobody else does. I would like to have somebody that I'm having a horrible day and I can call them up and like just sit on the phone and complain the whole time. And like that's when I started realizing that I had been shutting off my emotions completely for such a long time. And I realized that was extremely unhealthy.
So you finally sat down with your feelings and you let yourself realize that you do want to be in a relationship.
Now I feel like I'm in a place where I can actually commit time and effort towards something that could be built into something bigger and a person that could possibly be there at 28 if I meet them now.
Yeah. I think that's a perfect segue to talk about the positives of not being allowed to date at a young age.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you can go into that because I don't
Dita thinks there is no positives whatsoever to not being allowed to date.
It's not that I don't think that there's any positives. It's just the motive that Albanians have behind not letting their daughters date. I do not agree with.
Agreed.
At all.
I would really like to believe that my parents' motive was truly because they wanted us to focus on our education, focus on our goals, focus on setting ourselves up well for the future, to wait to find somebody who could complete that picture. And I really truly believe that. I do agree that I think them limiting us from dating did in one way or another help focus us towards those goals that we had. Hear me out. I know you're looking at me like I'm
waiting to jump in.
I know you're looking at me like I'm crazy, but hear me out. At 15, you had what you consider and you still remember as like one of the biggest heartbreaks you've had. And like at 15, you should not be going through that.
Going through that
Am
at
I starting
15,
to convince you?
Huh? No, not at all. Actually, I have a counter argument. Okay. Going through that at 15 forced me to raise my standards. It was character development. That's what it was.
I agree, but that happened to me when I was talking to people without emotions, that much emotion involved. I don't want to say like I was a heartless, cold bitch, but yikes. Mm-hmm. But that happened to me because while talking to these people, as much as I wouldn't try to get into it as much, I was still seeing qualities in these people that I'm like, wow, I really enjoy how he does that. Or
maybe it's just difference of character. Maybe you're more detached, whereas I get very emotional when it comes to my connections. Maybe you have a better way of being detached. It takes me so much to become attached that when I am, it's like so powerful.
Yeah, I could see that.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I can't have surface level conversations. This is why I have very few friends. This is why I've had very few genuine connections with people in life, because
I agree.
I don't have surface level conversations. Small talk makes me uncomfortable. I don't care what your favorite color is. I really don't.
Yeah.
And with that being said, like that's just my character. Like when I build a bond with somebody, it's so strong. So yes, whatever bond that I build with people is going to affect me immensely. Yeah. So that's why like departing from people that I feel strong connections with it's like a whole tower moment for me.
Yeah.
Because it's because it's that rare. So maybe it's just who I am as a person.
No, I agree. I think it also has to do with you getting to that point, because now I feel that way. I feel that the connections that I am making, they are like I don't care. I truly don't care for small talk anymore. Like that is an automatic.
It's not fulfilling. It's not fulfilling.
Yeah. Like there are a lot of things that after this whole year of self-development and figuring out my emotions and being okay with emotions and becoming emotionally intelligent, now I truly see what you're saying now. But if you would have told me what you just said when I was in college, I would have been like, girl, get out of your emotions and let's go find you a bit. Yeah. But now I totally agree. I can totally see that. I don't care for small talk. I don't know if it's because I feel like I'm in this like mature point in my life where it's like I moved to a new city by myself. I have a full-time job. Like I work a 9 to 5. So like I don't have much time to waste on small little conversations.
Yeah.
But to each their own.
Yeah.
How they go about dating, and we're not here to tell your parents to start letting you date earlier. I think there is benefits and negatives to both.
Yeah.
I do think there's like the sense of protection and the sense of I don't know if they actually mean it. When Albanian parents actually mean, like I feel like my parents, they actually meant for us to, like their main focus was for us to focus on our education and like have a really good foundation for the future. In that sense, I can agree. I can see their point of view and I can see where they're coming from. And I think it helps to reach that goal. Like, I think I was more focused, as I mentioned before, and like it probably did help to get me to where I am now. But you can talk about the negatives.
Yeah. Here's where I have a problem.
There we go. Here we go.
I'm ready to get in the ring. Here's why I have a problem with that. They shield you from dating for their own reasons that are outside trying to protect you in a wholesome way, meaning trying to preserve the family reputation, not having a hoe, air quotes, hoe sister or daughter, or making sure that you're a virgin and you're still valuable to whatever bachelor decides that he wants to wife you up when, you know, it's time. You like, you mentioned protection, and like the positive that you see is that like if a guy were to mess with you, you know that your dad will be there or your uncle or whatever will be there to protect you. I feel like, and like I've witnessed this firsthand, where like brothers and uncles and dads will be so overprotective only to not be there for you when you do get wifed up, because now you're your fiance's problem. You're not the family's problem anymore, because you're carrying your fiance's name. And I want to share a personal story that aligns with the point that I'm making, because I talk from experience. I'm not talking out of my ass, and I'm not talking for everyone. I'm talking about what I've seen and what I've witnessed in my life. So this is not necessarily my story to tell, but it becomes my story because I witnessed it and it affected me personally. I grew up with a cousin who had 4 older brothers, and they were very strict with her. She was not allowed to date. She was not allowed to talk to boys. She was not allowed to hang out with boys. But at the same time, obviously she did what any adolescent girl would do, and she would sneak around with guys. And when she would get caught, she would get abused by her brothers. And I've witnessed it many, many times, like seeing this girl get physically abused.
Oh, wow.
Like, so fast forward, she ended up getting engaged to the first guy that she dated after she was allowed to start dating. And she got engaged after a month, right? And the guy that she ended up getting engaged to was toxic and very abusive towards her, but she still stayed in the relationship. And when it came down to it, nobody helped her. They knew that she was being abused by this man, and the same brothers who were beating the shit out of her for talking to guys and hanging out with guys were the same people not doing anything when her fiance was beating the shit out of her too.
Right.
So that's what I don't agree with. Like, don't tell me that you're not letting me date to protect me when you're only doing it for what? Your reputation and the family name.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I've seen this happen multiple times. Why is it important for Albanian women to openly date?
I think you learn, like, throughout my experiences, I think you learn a lot about yourself. Dating, like, you learn about what you like, you learn about what you don't like, you learn about expectations. It helps build your confidence up. There are multiple benefits to it that do come alongside exploring that aspect.
Yeah, like when I was in my previous relationship, I was so conscious about not doing what I saw my parents doing, and like being an open communicator, and basically like teaching myself how to be a good partner, because I was so in love with this person that I was like, oh, I want to show up as the best version of myself in this relationship. And that's what it taught me. And boom, the next guy I end up with, guess what, baby? He's getting the best version of me. So
ooh,
yeah.
Send over your sons.
Send over your sons. No, I'm just kidding. But heartbreak is inevitable. Whether you go through it when you're 15 years old, or you go through it when you're 23, or you go through it when you're 30, it's always going to be hard if you go through it alone. It's always going to be hard if you go through it alone. And it's even harder
when you have to hide.
When you have to hide it. So why let your daughter suffer in silence? Why not be there for her? She's going to date. I'm just letting you know. She's going to date. She's going to sneak around. She's going to go in that BMW that's parked 3 blocks outside of your house. She's getting into that BMW.
crying.
So don't like, and wouldn't you rather know that your daughter's dating a guy? Isn't it more embarrassing if somebody comes up to you and is like, oh, I saw your daughter walking around with so-and-so, and you'd be like, actually, yes, I know. She's getting to know a guy.
That's even bigger problem though, because if somebody else sees you and the information did not come from you, honey.
So you have to let your daughter. End of the wouldn't you rather know what your daughter is up to?
So my parents would be working a lot throughout high school. So over half of the day I would be home alone, and all of my friends in high school knew this. So they would tell me, they would be like, I'm going to have my mom drop me off at your house, and then Mo is going to come pick me up from the corner, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, like a lot of my friends would do it. And this is like all of my foreign friends, mind you, like my Arabic friends, my Mexican friends. Yeah, this is a foreign girl struggle. Yeah. They would all not just like, Albanian girls. Girl, I'm coming over and I'm getting picked up from your house because you don't have parents around.
Yo, when I tell you Albanian girls are masterminds when it comes to sneaking around. Wait, real quick before we finish off this episode, because we got to start wrapping it up. But I had this one girl, let's just say her name was Tina. She'd be like, she'd be talking to a guy, right? And she was one of the girls that I'm saying, like, her older brother would beat the shit out of her if she even talked to a guy. And she'd be like, all right, so I'm gonna go meet Timmy. He's coming to pick me up at 3:30. This is when I get out of school. My brother knows that it takes me 15 minutes to get home. So in that 15 minutes, like, she would plan that shit out. And then she would lie and say that she's going to after school activities and then go meet up with the so-and-so. And then, like,
she had a full itinerary.
She had like the bus schedule too.
Yeah, because why should you have to go through all of that?
Why? For what? Just for your sons to be out here ruining the reputation either way? You're so worried about your daughter ruining your reputation by being a whore when your son is dealing drugs outside of his BMW in Morris Park. Okay, let's just get that out there.
But that's different because he's a businessman. You know?
Okay, but sex is a business too.
I'm
just kidding.
I'm dead. No, but honestly, like at the end of the day, like I'm speaking of my personal experience. I'm speaking of my future daughter if I have one. I'd rather know where she is, who she's with, know she's safe, than her trying to sneak around in somebody's Camaro. So, but I mean, I don't know. I would rather know where she is, who she's with, know they're safe, know the person they're talking to, be able to guide them if the person is a dumbass and they need to leave them. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I feel like as a parent, you should use your personal experience to make your children's life easier, not harder. Mm-hmm. If she wants to, she's going to figure out a way. We all did it.
If your daughter wants to have sex, she's going to find a way to have sex. The more that you tell a kid not to do something, they're going to do it, and you're going to create sneaky kids. Yeah. Why don't you rather embed self-esteem, self-respect, values, and then if she wants to go and have sex, she's going to go and have sex, and she's going to have that experience, and she's going to do it regardless, but at least she'll do it with a strong head and good values is what I'm basically trying to say.
I 100% agree.
Yeah. So, I mean, is there anything else that you feel like we should touch on? I feel like we kind of covered everything, everything and more in this episode. I feel very strongly about
this
the whole idea of like reputation and being a whore and like, yeah.
And them thinking that because you're seen with another male species ever in your life before you're married, then you're not going to ever get married. Yeah. Like, okay, cool. I didn't want to get married anyways.
I say that to my mom all the time.
Listen, I love this single life.
Yeah. I'm like,
I've been living it my whole life.
I'm like, if a guy doesn't want to marry me, why would I want to marry him? Like, ew, I like guys that like hoes. I don't like guys who are like close-minded and
another
shit.
Another thing is like, I always used to tell my parents in high school, especially when they would try to bring up conversations like this, they'd be like, yeah, you're never like, bad reputation, you're not gonna find a good guy, blah blah blah. And it's like, to be completely honest, what are the chances of me marrying an Albanian guy?
Ooh, that's another episode.
Yeah.
That's another episode. So let's wrap this one up because we're going to head into a different direction. We need to save that content, baby. Save that juicy content dating outside of the Albanian community.
Yes. Okay. That's a whole different ball game over there. But we want to thank you guys so much for tuning in. As we mentioned in the beginning of the episode, we can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this one and the ones coming up. You can find us on YouTube with Albanian subtitles, as many of you know by now.
Can you say it in Albanian?
You can... Oh my god!
Why did you just freeze?
I don't know, because I started saying it in English again. I'm like... forgetting my Albanian. I need to go back home. Mund të na gjeni në YouTube me titra shqip.
So please continue showing support. I'm telling you, every like, every subscribe, every shared post, every download really means a lot to us.
Yeah, and we want to start making a little more content where you get to know us like a little more personally. We're thinking about making like a YouTube video or something. So if you have any suggestions about that or questions that you would like to know about us that don't necessarily fit like topics that we talk on the podcast, leave those down below.
Like non-Albanian related
yeah,
YouTube topics and stuff like that. Also, before we close off, I do want to say that our email is provided in the YouTube description and in the show notes on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. We strongly urge you to reach out to us. If you want to share your story or you have input on the episodes that we have said so far and have your own type of story or experience, please feel free to email us. We can either interview you on the podcast, or we can just read out your email. It can be completely anonymous, and it'll just contribute to the podcast more, because we're not the only Albanian girls in the world. I want to hear from other people. This is the whole point of the podcast. So thank you guys so much for tuning in.
Now we're really gonna close it off.
Yeah, faleminderit shumë.
Faleminderit, natën e mirë.
I love you, and remember, you are never alone.